Live with CDP, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast live on YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitter, and on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, and Anchor FM. Now here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Season 5, Episode 5 of Live with CDP Sports Talk, which is being live streamed on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn as well. And Live with CDP Sports Talk is sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership, 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, or give them a call at 519-824-0210 and tell them Chris Palme, aka Chris CDP, sent you down to Barry Cullen Chevrolet as well. And I want to say thank you again to Mark Cullen for sponsoring Live with CDP Sports Talk as well. I hope everybody's having a great evening, and I'm looking forward to my guest tonight. His name is Scott Crawford. He is the Director of Operations for the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame in St. Mary's, Ontario, which isn't too far from Guelph and close to the London area as well. So just bear with me, and I'm going to bring on Scott, and we're going to talk a little baseball tonight and the impact Canada has had on the game of baseball, especially Major League Baseball. One second, I'm going to bring on Scott Crawford from the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. Good evening, Scott. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. Yourself?
Not too bad. I am already missing baseball, and I can't wait for spring training to start up in February.
Yeah, I mean, there's no games, but of course, all kinds of stuff going on in the off season, which makes us last till February.
I'm going to put you on the spot here. Are you definitely a huge Toronto Blue Jays fan?
Yep, for sure. I grew up in Georgetown, near closer to Toronto than I am now, and always grew up a Blue Jay fan and keep pulling for them each day.
What are your thoughts on their off-season moves so far, or a lack of them?
I guess I'm not surprised. I mean, the last few off seasons, they signed Springer late, and Ryu was at Christmas time last couple of years ago, and but I mean, they made that big move early, moving Teoscar out to Seattle for two bullpen guys. Our big help, we needed bullpen. We had the best offense in baseball and one of the worst sort of average bullpens, I guess. So they're trying to do that, but Kevin Kiermaier will be a great upgrade from Bradley and Zimmer from last year, but he's probably like the ninth inning defense guy. He's not going to be starting every game.
I'm just going to shut my Wi-Fi off on my phone. Sorry. I just Wi-Fi connection there. Sometimes it happens, so I just turned it off on my phone. But I was going to say, what were your thoughts on the World Series this year between the Astros and Phillies, and how cool was it to see a Canadian Baseball Hall of Famer in Rob Thompson managing the Phillies and bringing them within 2 wins of being, I believe, the first Canadian-born manager to ever win a World Series?
I mean, it was amazing. I mean, Rob, there hasn't been a full-time Canadian manager in the big league since 1934 when George Mooney Gibson did it. There hasn't been a Canadian manager in the World Series since 1887 when a guy named Willie Watkins did it from Brantford. So, I mean, it's the first Canadian in over 130 years. And we were pulling for Rob. We know him very well. He's a great guy. He lives right near St. Mary's. And we were really hoping that, of course, he would pull off the World Series victory. Houston's such a good team. I mean, for the no-hitter they threw to the last 3 games, their pitching just overpowered the Phillies offense. And I was pulling for Rob to win it, of course, but as long as there were good close games, and I was hoping Philly come out on top. But Houston's got a little dynasty going since for the last 5 years, so they're quite a strong team.
It's just the Wi-Fi connection. Pardon me. Sorry about that, Scott. I guess it's just the Wi-Fi connection tonight. So, yeah, with Houston and Philadelphia, I like what the Astros have done, and then the Phillies have added Trey Turner. So I wouldn't be shocked if Houston and Philadelphia had one more World Series next year, possibly.
Oh, I sure hope so on the Philadelphia side. That's for sure. I mean, Rob's there for 2 more years, and but they're in a tough division. Those Mets are spending a ton of money. The Braves are going to spend some money soon, and of course Philly's already spent some. So that's the NL East is going to be one heck of a race all the way down.
I agree. As you can see, I'm a long-suffering Tigers fan since 1979, and I'm hoping Scott Harris, who they brought in from the San Francisco Giants, along with AJ Hinch, I'm assuming he'll be back to get the Tigers back winning again. Now, you're down closer to the London area. Is this still kind of a 50-50 divide, or is that more of a Blue Jay area now?
I'd say it's maybe 60-40. I'll go now. I'm a little more Blue Jay fans. You're right. St. Mary's is half an hour north of London. And but London's basically 2 hours of Toronto, 2 hours of Detroit, and so it is a split city. They were definitely Tiger fans until the Blue Jays came, but there's a few more Blue Jay fans now. But you still got to be careful when you go down to a sports bar and figure out who you're cheering for and who the hometown crowd actually is cheering for.
Okay, definitely. I'm just going to get into questions. The first question I wanted to ask you, Scott, can you just tell us about yourself and the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame, and how did it get started up originally?
Yeah, I mean, I've been here since 2000. I started as a volunteer in 1999, and been director of operations for the last 22 years. Got in here as a volunteer and kept on stuck around when they need a paid person. So that's been fantastic. Baseball is my love, like yours and like our listeners. I mean, the Hall of Fame has a long history. It actually started in 1982 in Toronto, at Exhibition Place. Then it hopped across the road to Ontario Place. And about 1990, it closed down. It was just getting lost in the big city. It wasn't doing well. People weren't going, wasn't making enough revenue. So they wanted to move it. Early 90s, we all know our favorite Blue Jays were winning World Series, and they wanted to bring it to Southern Ontario. Southern Ontario is really where baseball started in Canada, with Hamilton and Woodstock and Beachville and Guelph and London. So they wanted to go to a small town in Southern Ontario. St. Mary's put a bid in the mid-90s. In 94, we won the Hall of Fame, and in 94, we opened. So we've been 24 years open in Little St. Mary's. So we're pretty proud of that, and it's thriving.
Is it a similar? I don't know if you. I assume you've been to the Baseball Hall of Fame at Cooperstown. Is St. Mary's similar to Cooperstown? I guess in that sense.
Well, it's got some similarities. I mean, we're a small town, but I mean, we're a town of 7,000 people, where Cooperstown's a village of maybe 2,000 people. Their downtown is full of baseball stores, and our downtown isn't, more so because the museum's not downtown St. Mary's. It's down the street from downtown St. Mary's, and where we're able to build our 4 ball fields. But that's the other thing we don't have, or we have, that Cooperstown doesn't, is we have a 32-acre site with 4 ball fields that get events on our site in the summertime. Cooperstown does have a ball field, of course, but their museum doesn't run that ball field. The village of Cooperstown runs it, and they have 1 field, and say we have 4, and we go 7-8 months a year and 7 days a week on our ball fields.
I'm not sure if you'll be able to answer this, but besides St. Mary's, what other communities at the time were considered for the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame when they decided to leave Toronto?
Yeah, there were about 12 cities bid for it. I mean, there was St. Catharines, there was Toronto, there was Niagara Falls, there was Orangeville. It came down to us in Guelph. Guelph has a huge baseball history.
Wow.
with George Sleeman. He put beer and baseball together, and that was a great combination. George is actually in our Hall of Fame for all he did for baseball in the mid 1800s. But we had the history with the game, the Beachville game, and Adam Ford being a St. Mary's person. And then we had the land too, with the 32 acres of land, enough room to build the 4 ball fields. And not that Guelph wasn't deserving, but we won out because we had a few more highlights we could provide, and we won the Hall of Fame in 1994.
That's why I love doing this podcast too, is I get to share stories with my guests and then learn new things. And I've been living in Guelph since 1981, and I had no idea Guelph actually was one of the cities that bid for the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame, Scott. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it came down to say just the 2 of us, and I wasn't around then when it was decided, but we won out, and Guelph, obviously was disappointed, but we have some supporters that live in Guelph, and they just want to see baseball thrive, like you and I. Again, more baseball, the better in Canada, and yeah, the museum's an hour from Guelph, but it's still in the Southern Ontario, and there's still a lot of connections to Guelph in our Hall of Fame.
And it's also a half an hour from London. And this year I went back to Labatt Park for the first time in 32 years to cover a majors game. And Noel Smith and Dylan Baker have kind of got me back into the Intercounty Baseball League. And I forgot how great Labatt Park is. And it's still considered the oldest active ballpark in North America, Scott?
It is. It's the oldest continuous use park in North America. And it's been going since 1887. And they've been playing ball every year. Even during 2020, during COVID, the London Majors played one game, and I might be wrong, but it might have been against Guelph, just to keep the continuous game streak going. So that was fantastic. And the city of London are trying to get Labatt Park as a national historical place in the country, which will really give it a lot of preservation and a lot of heritage notifications, which will be fantastic. And it was voted, like Baseball Canada 5, 6, 7 years ago did a competition for the best ballpark in Canada, and Labatt Park won out. It's so beautiful. It's so well maintained. We have 4 ball fields here, but I always say I'm jealous at Labatt Park because it's so beautiful and the field is immaculate, and the grounds crew there. I pick their brain anytime I can.
Has there ever been any talk about the Blue Jays playing a preseason game there, or even in St. Mary's, just like they do in Cooperstown, or they did in Cooperstown for a while there with Major League Baseball?
Yeah, no, there hasn't been any talk, not in St. Mary's. And they don't do that game in Cooperstown anymore either. I'm not sure why, but they stopped doing that a few years ago. And Labatt Park, it had AA baseball. As you know, in the 90s, your Detroit Tiger AA team was in London. So the field's immaculate. And, and it's one of those things, every time there's a game like down in Iowa last year with the Field of Dreams game, there's always a thought, well, why not Toronto and Detroit in London? It's halfway for each team. And, of course, there's a million rules and players union stuff and Major League Baseball items that would have to be figured out and solved, from change rooms to stands to clubhouses, all kinds of things. But it'd be pretty cool. Labatt Park is one of a kind field, and it's the perfect spot for a Tigers Blue Jay neutral site game.
Absolutely. And I've been lucky, Scott. I've done Labatt Park. I've been to Doubleday Field in Cooperstown, and I've also done the Field of Dreams in Iowa. So, if they can do it in Iowa, there's no reason why they couldn't spend a little bit of money and upgrade the facilities to have a game like the Blue Jays and Tigers there. And I miss that rivalry between the Blue Jays and Tigers back in the 80s. I thought it was the best in baseball back then.
Yeah, same division back then, right? And they're only, a 4-hour drive apart. And it was, I remember it too. I was saying, being a Blue Jay fan forever, I was always hoping your team would lose, but it was always good rivalry when they played.
Absolutely. This I wanted to ask you as well, Scott. What are some of the criterias for being elected to the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame for my audience here?
Yeah, for sure. We have, first of all, we have 151 Hall of Famers currently. 70% are Canadian. The other 30% are mostly all-time great Blue Jay Expos. For example, Roy Halladay, Vladimir Guerrero, Steve Rogers, Tim Raines, Andre Dawson, Joe Carter, Ernie Witt, those type players. If they're not Canadian, they've done something significant in the game of baseball in Canada. That's the key. You can't just play 1 week or 1 year, let's say, with Toronto or Montreal and think you're getting in. You have to do something very significant, which, if you look at our list of non-Canadian inductees, they've all spent a long time playing baseball up here in Canada. But really, it's there's a committee spread across Canada. It does the voting. You're on the ballot for 9 years if you don't get in, and you need 75% of the vote to get in. So it's hard to get in our Hall of Fame, which is the way it should be for all Hall of Fames, because it takes the best of the best to be in a Hall of Fame. And I think it's good. I think our committee's done a great job. Say they're spread across Canada. And so they're a mix of people. We have historians, we have past inductees, we have media, and we have executives on our committee. So we hear it from all aspects of the game, or all sides of the game, which is really important. And if you look at our classes of inductees, a lot of years we'll have an executive with a player or an umpire or a coach. There's always players, there's lots of players, but from executive to coaches to umpires. It's always key to remember that without the other people, the players can't play the game. So you need all aspects of the game.
Absolutely. Is there a set number that you want in each year's class Hall of Fame, or does it just depend on the candidates who are eligible?
Yeah, no, it just depends. I mean, you have to be retired 3 years to be eligible to be on the Hall of Fame, and then someone actually has to nominate you to get on the ballot. And then there's no limit. Some years we induct one. In 2000, we did one. In 2022, we technically did one with Jeff Francis. But other years, we average 3 or 4 a year. If you look at our lists, and 35 years and 150 inductees, it's 3 to 4 a year on average.
As for broadcasters, obviously the late Tom Cheek and Tony Kubak are in, and they had a big impact on baseball in Canada, specifically with the Blue Jays. There's one name I want to bring up, and I think he should be in the Cooperstown too, as the Ford Frick Award, and that would be Jerry Howarth. Is there any possibility in the future he could be put into the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame for his 36 years with the Blue Jays?
Oh, definitely. And you look at, two Blue Jay announcers, Tom Cheek and Tony Kubek are the two that are in. Expos have Dave Van Horn and Jacques Doucette. And Jerry Howard's won our Jack Graney Award, which is the Lifetime Media Award we give out each year. And I think Jerry should definitely be in the Hall of Fame. I think it's one of those things where, again, it's a voting process and you need 75%. And I don't think it'll be too long before he does get in. And I don't have a vote because I work at the Hall of Fame. But I think he deserves it from all his longevity. I mean, it was last week they announced the Ford C. Frick Award. You're right, and both Jacques Doucette and Jerry Howarth were on the ballot on the top 10 they had listed there. And I wanted to tie with Jerry and Jacques both winning it, which I know can't happen, but shouldn't be ties in baseball. But it was I was really pulling for those two to win it. And unfortunately, they didn't. But there's next time they get on that ballot, we'll be hoping they do.
Cross their fingers. I had to ask you this: when you have your introduction ceremonies, now that we're, I think, out of the pandemic, I hope, how many fans can attend the ceremonies at St. Mary's?
Yeah, well, the ceremony's outside. It's under a large tent on one of our ball fields on our site. So there's really no maximum that can attend. We usually get about 1,000 people, depending on the weather, basically, because it's an outdoor event. But yeah, it's a free event. It's Saturday, June 17th next year. We'll announce our inductees in early February, and you can come out. I mean, there's a silent auction, there's ball games, there's barbecue, and there's beverages, and there's an autograph session after the ceremony with the inductees. And of course, the museum's open all day, so you can take a tour. And it's just a great baseball day. I always tell people, ceremony's at 1:00, but I always tell people, get there at 10 or 11 in the morning. That way you can watch some baseball and go buy a hot dog and check out the museum and, just enjoy the time and talk baseball with people.
What is an average ticket price for that, in case someone like myself or someone watching or listening to this podcast is interested in coming this June 17th?
Yeah, I mean, we always leave the ceremony free to attend. It's one of our events. On Thursday night, we have a fundraising paid event in Toronto to kick off the weekend. And then Friday's our celebrity golf tournament, which is a high price ticket, but it's a fundraising golf tournament with us. We bring in a bunch of celebrities and we do those two events. So Saturday can be as fan friendly as possible. I mean, the ceremony is free, but you can make a parking donation. We do need to raise money that day. So parking donations and food and merchandise and auctions and autographs and museum admissions. So we like to get the bigger crowd as possible. And then it sort of entails off and they'll buy stuff when they're there.
There's a couple of taggers in there. Sparky Anderson, obviously, for his time with the Toronto Maple Leafs of the International League back in the 60s. And John Hiller, who was born in Toronto, who was a part of the 68 World Series Taggers team as well. And former tagger for a year or two, Lloyd Moseby, is in the Hall of Fame as well.
Yeah, I mean, we got a lot of Tiger connections. And another one's Reno Bertoya, who grew up in Windsor and spent all his time in Windsor and retired and was a high school teacher. It's almost more famous. Reno's more known as a high school teacher than a Major League Baseball player, and he played 600 games in the big leagues. So it's kind of funny that way. But no, John Hiller was an amazing relief pitcher. Great story because he had that heart attack young and told he wasn't going to pitch again, and he came back and pitched. Sparky Anderson, we all know him as a manager, but look at his minor league career. He played in Montreal, he played in Toronto, which were AAA teams at the time, and then he managed. His first managing job was in Toronto, managing the Toronto Maple Leaf baseball team, and then of course Big Red Machine, and then on to your Tigers and into Cooperstown. So when we put Sparky in that year, it was really to honor some minor league players. Again, it wasn't like he played 1 year or managed 1 year. I mean, he played 2 or 3 years in Montreal, then he played 2 or 3 years in Toronto, and then his first managing job, which is so amazing, was in Toronto, because then he became a Hall of Fame manager. So he sort of got kickstarted up here in Canada.
And Tommy Lasorda, he managed the Montreal Royals, I believe, before he went to LA, or the Brooklyn Dodgers farm team at that point too. So Tommy Lasorda had a Canadian connection as well.
He did, and he's in our Hall of Fame too. He pitched for the Royals for a really long time. He holds the record. He pitched 9 years in Montreal Royals, so he has the most wins, the most seasons pitched, the most strikeouts, most games started, most innings pitched. Like he holds all the Montreal Royals pitching records. And again, you wouldn't think, well, why is he in the Hall of Fame? Well, because he spent a long time in Montreal and is considered the best or one of the top best Montreal Royals pitchers ever. And everyone knows him as a manager with the Dodgers, and he was a great manager, and they won World Series and went on to Cooperstown. But again, he got to start in Canada, in Montreal.
Absolutely. And we can't, the country of Canada in the last few years has developed more Major League Baseball players as well.
Oh, we have. I mean, there's so much young talent. I mean, the next guy to make it, I mean, he just got called in the last year, but it's Bo Naylor. He's from Mississauga, Toronto area, and he's a catcher with Cleveland. He's so good. He was a Cleveland minor league player of the year. For a catcher, he went 20-20, 20 homers, 20 stolen bases. And
impressive.
That's hard for anyone to do, let alone a catcher. So that he's got good things coming. But his brother, Josh Naylor, is with Cleveland. Cal Quantrill's with Cleveland. You got Tyler O'Neill with St. Louis. You got Matt Brash with Seattle. You got the old timer Joey Votto with Cincinnati still, and of course the Blue Jays. You got Vladdy Guerrero, and you got Jordan Romano, and I'm forgetting a whole bunch of them. But there's just there's a 15 that played in the big leagues this past summer, and the number's growing. We got a good crop at AAA, and Bo's leading that charges into the future.
And Joey Votto is going to be a future Canadian Baseball Hall of Famer as well when his career is over.
Oh, definitely. I mean, Joey's going to be in Cooperstown when his career is over. That's how good he is. He's going to join Fergie and Larry and be the third Canadian in Cooperstown. Now, for them, you got to be retired 5 years. So we all hope Joey plays for 2, 3, 4 more years, and then 3-year wait for us and a 5-year wait for Cooperstown. So it's going to be at least 5 to 10 years before he's in our Hall of Fames, which is fine. We can wait. I want to see him keep playing. He, hopefully his injury is what slowed him down this past summer, because he had a bad year and then he went off injury with a shoulder surgery. But he's, this next year's really got to prove himself. Last year of his contract, and he loves Cincinnati. He wants to stay in Cincinnati, and I don't blame him. They drafted him as an 18-year-old catcher, and he's just, and now he's playing, of course, first base. So he's a legend, and we're proud to call him Canadian.
In your opinion, who do you feel is the greatest Canadian baseball player of all time so far?
Put me on the spot, eh?
Yes.
I'm going to say Fergie Jenkins. Fergie, for main reason is Fergie never got hurt. It's easy to say the greatest pitcher ever is Fergie Jenkins and the greatest hitter ever is Larry Walker. That's no doubt easy peasy. You can pick those two. But Larry got hurt a lot in his career, not necessarily all his fault. He played the game hard. He stole bases. He dove for balls in the outfield. He hit the walls. Larry Walker's an amazing 5-tool player that no Canadian's ever going to match hitting wise. But Fergie Jenkins, he pitched 6 20-win seasons in a row, which back then when wins mattered more because he actually pitched complete games. He won the Cy Young. He was an all-star. He never got hurt. If you look at his numbers in his years, he pitched all the time, every fourth day back then, and he was a winner. He played for teams that he never made the playoffs because he played with the Chicago Cubs mostly, and they had struggled in the playoffs or to get into the playoffs. But if he played on some really good teams, he would have got to 300 wins easily because he finished with 284 wins. but he's still, he's in Cooperstown and one of the best ever.
Speaking of that, Dave Steve, obviously he wasn't born in Canada, but he's, to me, still the greatest pitcher in Blue Jays history. And if he had better bullpens back in the 80s instead of Bill Cottle and Joey McLaughlin and Roy Lee Jackson, Steve would have won at least 2 or 3 Cy Youngs and probably would have gotten to about 250 wins total.
Yeah, Dave Steve. I mean, there's always the argument, Dave Steve, Roy Halladay, and you might be able to throw in Jimmy Key in there too when you look at the numbers. But, Dave Steve was the pitcher of the 80s. It was him and Jack Morris. Jack had a bit longer career series, so that's sort of maybe why he's seen as a Hall of Famer. But Dave Steve, someone did a thing on him on YouTube last year or whatever. It's like a 6-part series about Dave Steve, and it's amazing when you dig into the numbers. And yeah, he should have won Cy Youngs, been more All-Stars, and they just looked at stats different in the 80s. They really concentrated on wins, which with the Blue Jays, they were good, but the first few years of Dave's career, they weren't that good, and therefore Dave wasn't getting wins, and therefore the people weren't looking at him as much, instead of the stats nowadays where you look at his ERA and his ERA plus and his WHIP and innings pitched and complete games, and Dave had it all in the 80s.
Yeah, in 1982, he had 19 complete games, I believe. And now you're lucky to see a pitcher in his career get 5 or 10 complete games, if that. The game has changed so much from a starting pitcher going the whole distance to now, okay, 4 or 5 innings, and then this guy and this guy in the bullpen.
Yeah, and it frustrates me. I would love to see pitchers pitch, starting pitchers pitch. That's why they're there, but they're not being groomed for that anymore. No. In the minor leagues, they're throwing 100 innings. If you're throwing 100 innings in AA and AAA, you're not throwing 200 innings in the big leagues. It's just not going to happen. So if they're grooming you to throw 100 innings or 150 innings, that's what you're going to throw in the big leagues, because that's what they've trained your body to do. There's the odd exception, of course. You can look at the guys. I think a couple guys threw 200 innings this year, but not very many. I think only about 35 to 40 guys qualified for the ERA title, where you got to throw at least 162 innings to qualify for that. I love to see starting pitchers pitch. Like let them try. If you don't let them try to get through the lineup the third time, they're never going to be able to do it. And then the one time you do let them do it, they're going to get rocked, and then their stats will be bad. And then they'll say, well, let's not let them do it because they can't do it. But you only let them try once or twice all year. So in my mind, it's got to be a feel. It's got to be a look. Yeah, if the pitcher's after 5 innings looks tired and his pitches aren't moving, yeah, get him out of there. But if he's still going strong at 100 pitches in the 5th inning and the lineup's coming up for the 3rd time, but his pitches are moving, his legs are fine, his arm's fine, the catcher says he's throwing well, then I would like to see him keep pitching, because why not? That's what they're paid to do. They're starting pitchers, and they should, back in the 80s, it was like throw 8-9 innings. Now it's, unfortunately now it's like throw 5 innings and the team's happy with you, where, I think, I won't say 8-9 innings is probably ever going to come back, but, I don't see 5 innings as a good start. I'm looking like, I like to see 7 innings if you can out of a starter.
Yeah, back then when I was a kid, 5 innings or less was considered a poor start, and 6 was average, and 7+ was considered a very good start.
Yep, no, I agree, and I hope they get back to it, but it's trending the other way, and I don't, until it starts trending back up where they're letting their kids in AA and AAA throw, 150 to 200 innings instead of 100 to 150, it's going to be difficult to expect them to do that in the big leagues, and that's fine. I mean, it's Major League Baseball. If the teams think that's the best way to go, then who am I to say do different? But it's just my opinion. I like seeing starting pitchers pitch.
Absolutely. This leads to my next question, Scott. How difficult was it for the Hall of Fame during the pandemic shutdown for a couple of years?
Oh, it was really hard. I mean, we had the museum closed in 2018 because we were doing renovations. We added 2,500 square feet and renovated the old building and moved our offices into the upstairs. And then 2019, we opened. We were brand new. Everything was new about us. We had a great year. And then March 2020 hit. And then it continued into all of 2021. I mean, each year we got open for a couple months each year. But it was very slow because people weren't comfortable leaving their houses and going to indoor attractions. I mean, again, we're an indoor attraction, so that was the last thing to open in the province, and people just weren't comfortable doing it. There's almost no ball in 2020 on our field. There's still the expense of looking after the fields. You still got to cut the grass and keep them looking nice and whatnot. But there's almost no baseball at all in 2020. And then 2021, there was about half a season of baseball. Some of the kids got back in, which was great. But again, it didn't start till mid-July. And the little kids' ball season is over by mid-August, right? So they had about a month of ball. And so it was difficult. Museum not open, the ball field's not open. We got a lot of stuff done inside the building with our collection, which is obviously always a positive, but the revenue is tough, and our expenses didn't really go down that much.
Leads to my next question. Can you just tell my audience a little bit about your memorabilia in the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame, and how much do you have of it from the old exhibition stadium? I grew up with that stadium back in the 70s and 80s, and I was fond of it, even though a lot of people hated it. What kind of memorabilia do you even have from that old stadium?
Well, first off, we got a few seats. So if you enjoyed sitting on those cold, hard plastic seats, you can come visit us and we'll let you sit on one of them. But not everyone enjoyed those. I remember sitting on them, and the old metal benches as well, sitting on them as down the baselines. But the museum, we're 3,500 square feet, so we're not big, but we're just a nice size. Some of my favorite artifacts, we got Babe Ruth autographed bat and baseball on display. We got Fergie Jenkins Cy Young Award from 71 on display. But probably the coolest thing, if you can get cooler than Babe Ruth, is we have the home run home plate and the batting helmet from Joe Carter's home run in '93. We hit that home run. It's not an official home run till you touch home plate, and we got the actual home plate. And then Joe donated his helmet to us from that game. And if you watch that home run, Joe's helmet fell off at first base, but he didn't stop. He kept going. The Jays' first base coach went back and picked it up and held onto it during the celebrations and gave it back to Joe. And then Joe gave it to us in 2003. So we were really lucky that Rich Hacker went back and picked it up and cared enough to hold on to it during the celebrations. So we could have it in our collection. I mean, we have about 6,000 3D artifacts and about that many books and magazines as well. Being a smaller museum, we're really trying to get a lot of our stuff online now. If you go to our website, we have about 900 items up online, so you can virtually see them. Never as good as actually coming to the museum and seeing them in person, but at the same time, we can't display everything, and we understand, they're not close necessarily like you are to us. If you're from Saskatchewan or Alberta or PEI, making a trip to Southern Ontario is difficult, but you still want to celebrate and see the cool Canadian artifacts. So you can jump online our website and see what we have in our collection.
Were you guys able to get any of the bases from Exhibition Stadium or the pitching rubber? I know that last game, Ozzie Guillen and Steve Lyons took a couple of the bases, but nobody seems to know whatever happened to the bases in the home plate from Exhibition Stadium.
We have a few things. We have some stuff from 77. We have a pitching rubber and one of the plates from the first year, and the pitching rubber from the first. And then we have a base from 89, third base from 1999 in our collection as well. So that's pretty cool. And the Exhibition Stadium, some things were collected, not too much. It's disappointing because of course a lot of stuff's gone now or other people have it, but we're always looking to add to our collection. So if somebody has something unique, they think they want to help preserve the history of baseball in Canada, they can get a hold of us, and we'd love to preserve that history because it's vitally important.
Absolutely. Now, the Blue Jays started in 77. That first ball, did it go to you guys or did it go to the Canadian Sports Hall of Fame in Calgary?
The Canada Sports Hall of Fame, we weren't around in 77. So we didn't really start till 82. Bruce Prentice started the Hall of Fame in Toronto. And someone asked me that a while ago, and it was the Canada Sports Hall of Fame has that very first ball. So it's pretty cool. Again, to have it in a museum and have it preserved and have it know where it is so cool. Because again, that was 45 years ago, and a ball, could be anywhere, but now it's in the Canadian Sports Hall of Fame is perfect location.
Is there any chance that you guys could arrange to borrow it and have it on display, like for a week or two at the Hall of Fame in St. Mary's?
Yeah, in the past when we were small, we weren't really didn't really space to do a lot of changes or a lot of museums, whatnot, because we were in that little old stone house. We still have the stone house as part of the museum, but now with our expansion, we're looking into those type of things with the Canadian Sports Hall of Fame or the Negro League Museum or Cooperstown. Just a way to share artifacts. We're good friends with all of them, and there's a lot of, sometimes it's timing, sometimes it's cost, sometimes it's just other aspects that don't work yet, but since we had the expansion open in 2019, it's unfortunate with COVID, the last 2 years have basically shut down every museum and everyone's been so shorthanded the last 2 years. But we do want to get back in touch and raise it now because we have the space, and to have something like that for the summer, or borrow the World Series trophy or a replica trophy or something that would really bring people to the Hall of Fame to see something pretty historic.
If anybody's watching this or listening later and they do have something that's might be interested to you guys, what's the best way for them to contact you or the Baseball Hall of Fame?
Yeah, just our phone number or my email. They're both are
Okay.
on the screen there. You can get that or go to our website. You can see all the contact information. Our website's just baseballhalloffame.ca, and you can find all the contacts. I'm the only full-time permanent staff there, so you're probably going to get me answering the phone or answering the email.
And when you guys do open up in the May, what's the average ticket price to get into the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame in St. Mary's?
Yeah, we keep it pretty cheap. I mean, it's $12 for an adult, 10 for a child or a senior, and a whole family's 35. So it's a relatively good price, and we feel that gives it takes if you're not a real big baseball fan, you'll get through in 45 minutes. If you love baseball, you could be there 2 hours. It really depends how big a baseball fan you are, and our summer staff and our volunteers just love talking baseball. So if you want a tour, you can you let us know whether you want the half-hour tour or the 2-hour tour. we'll keep you the length of time you want to come visit.
Absolutely. And I know when I went to Cooperstown, I was there for about 7.5, 8 hours. And if I had more time, because the hall closes at a certain time, I probably would have been there 10 or 11 hours because I really appreciate the history of the game and love seeing old baseball memorabilia.
Oh, definitely, Cooperstown. I've been there a few times. I've been there induction weekend when it's crazy shoulder to shoulder, and I've been there in November when it's pretty slow. Both times are great. If you really want to see the museum, you go in the off season, and that way you can sort of just wander at your own pace. But Cooperstown is amazing. I've been there, I think 3 induction ceremonies, and the atmosphere is out of this world. And I would suggest it to everyone. Of course, after you come to St. Mary's, then go to Cooperstown and check that out.
Absolutely.
But you got to do both. If you're a baseball fan, you got to do both things. And they're they're open now, and we're open now. And COVID's a lot of the restrictions are gone now, of course, in both countries, and you can enjoy the facilities again.
What are your regular hours for the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame in St. Mary's when you guys open up in May again?
Yeah, I mean and I'll just mention that if you want to come in the wintertime, you can. I'm there every day. The only thing you need to do in the wintertime is pre-book your visit. So we make sure myself's there or volunteers there to show you around the museum. So again, you just email us, call us, book in a time, and then we'll open the doors and give you a tour. Starting in May, we're open every day. It's 10 to 5, 6 or 7 days a week, and right through till Labor Day weekend. So you got lots of time in May, June, July, August to visit us and check out that. And when you're there, you can watch a ball game in one of our fields, or go through go for a walk along the trails or whatnot, or spend the day in St. Mary's. I mean, the quarry's open in the summertime, July and August. It's amazing, and of course you can always go shopping downtown too.
Never been to St. Mary's, so that is definitely going to be on my bucket list. And I'm gonna see if I can come in May as for a while, and maybe I can do a live interview or live interviews from the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame for my social media pages as well.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, let us know. I mean, the more we can talk baseball and spread the word about not only the Hall of Fame, but all the Canadian talent in Major League Baseball and the Blue Jays excitement and whatnot. It's going to be fantastic 2023, and yeah, we can talk baseball for sure.
So the next class of 2023 will be announced in what, February, you said?
Yeah, it's either going to be February 1st or 2nd that we're going to announce it.
Okay.
and then it'll be then we'll have the induction ceremony June 17th.
I will try to I'll try to come down for that, because that would be something to see. I'd be able to go to a Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame introduction ceremony class. That would be awesome.
Yeah, well, we'd love to have you there, and you never know, there might be some tigers wandering around the old ceremony that day. You never know.
Joel Siddell as well, and I think he's one of the best broadcasters out there, and he played some Major League Baseball with the Expos and Tigers briefly too, from Windsor, I believe.
Yeah, he is Windsor guy, and yeah, he was the Expo Tiger, played several years as a catcher, and he threw batting practice after he retired for the Tigers for a long time, and then he did the radio for the Blue Jays for a year, and now he's been doing TV with Jamie Campbell for several years, and he's awesome. He's great friends of ours. He helps us out whenever we need help, and he's a really nice guy, and we're glad to be friends with him.
I got to ask you this as a Tiger fan. I'll wrap this up in a couple of minutes. You obviously saw Lou Whitaker play. Lou Whitaker, a Hall of Fame second baseman, in your opinion?
Definitely. Him and Alan Trammell, there is nothing better than seeing those two turn a double play, and then they go and hit. I mean, they're both known as defensive gems in their careers, and both good hitters as well. We keep waiting for Whitaker to get, on one of the Veterans Committee ballots. Fred McGriff just got in recently, yes, which was great to see, being a Blue Jay and a great, obviously, Hall of Fame, or a great player that's now a Hall of Famer. I think Whitaker deserves it. Trammell's in, and Whitaker was just as good, if not better.
I really hope they get him in there. I know, and he played the game right too. There was never any controversy with him, and he was consistently good every year. And he had a great career: five-time All-Star, 3 straight Gold Gloves. I think 2,369 hits, 244 home runs, 1,058 RBIs, and to me, he's considered one of the top 10 second basemen of all time. And after Charlie Gehringer, I think he's the second greatest second baseman in Tigers history.
Yeah, I know. And I think you look at his career WAR, I think it's 70, low 70s.
75.1, which was actually ahead of Alomar, Sandberg, even Joe Morgan, and even Derek Jeter, I believe.
Yeah, and it's you look at the voting and stuff, and sometimes you wonder, Fred McGriff only got 39% on the ballot. Carlos Delgado didn't even get 5%, and he was off after 1 year. And you look at Delgado's numbers. I mean, I'm just talking Blue Jays because I know them best. Obviously, growing up watching Delgado and McGriff play, every team has a couple players like that. And the Tigers, it's Lou Whitaker, and but again, Halls of Fames are hard to get into. Every time we announce people, people say, "Well, why isn't this person in? Why isn't that person in?" And I think in the long run, these veterans committees will help. And actually, I believe there's been more people put in by the Veterans Committee at Cooperstown than the regular BBWA committee. But again, you can't get everything right all the time, and you're not going to make everyone happy. So you do what you can. 75% is a big amount to get in. I mean, if you get 74%, you're not getting in the Hall of Fame. You need that 75%, and so it should be hard to get in. But Fred McGriff's getting in this year, and that's going to be a great addition to Cooperstown.
Is Fred in the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame yet? Has he already been put in?
He's not. If you look at his career, I mean, he played 18 years, I think, in the big leagues, but really only 4 years with Toronto. So he didn't really have the longevity of his career with the Blue Jays, and that's really why. He played the Jays, Atlanta, Tampa Bay, all sort of 4 to 5 years. But no, he didn't. He's not in our Hall of Fame. I'm not saying he won't get in one day, but just his longevity here didn't really match up with some of the other people that are in our Hall.
Definitely. Now, as for Roberto Alomar, he's no longer with the Blue Jays, and I'm not going to get into that, but he obviously was a Hall of Fame baseball player, and I really think the Jays should have left his name on the Hall of Fame and their banner up there, because it's about what he did on the field, not off the field. And I don't understand why. I think they made a mistake in doing that. If they didn't want to have any association with him anymore, I understand that. But to take him off and ghost him, that's what I call it, ghost him from the Rogers Center, I think that is a mistake in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, what the Blue Jays did and Major League Baseball did, I mean, obviously they know a lot more than what we know
Yeah.
here. They chose to do that. Major League Baseball put them on the suspended or banned list. I'm not sure the official name of it, and the Blue Jays followed suit. They would have had, again, all I know is what I heard in the media, and the Blue Jays and baseball decided to do what they did, and it's a dark moment in Blue Jay history and every other aspect of people's personal life that happened, and hopefully
Yeah.
hopefully it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, definitely. Last question, Scott, I wanted to ask you. Scott, this one I wanted to ask you. How can people get involved with the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame as a volunteer or support? And the second part, you already answered the question about your hours of operation.
Well, for sure, we're always looking for volunteers all year round. I mean, our biggest need is helping inside the museum, talking baseball, something that you could do perfectly. It's just we need volunteers when the museum's open just to wander around and talk baseball with the tourists. There's nothing else to it. You don't have to handle money. You don't have to sell merchandise. You don't, you greet the tourists and you start talking baseball. So it's pretty much the easiest thing you could do if you're a baseball fan. So that's the main thing. And then the other things, obviously induction weekend, we use about 100 different volunteers from setup to cleanup. And then we have one-off events all the time. We're just looking for someone to cook some food on a barbecue or help run a kids event or whatnot. But definitely the two major ones are helping in the museum, talking baseball, and then induction weekend. So people, again, just get a hold of us through our website or our phone and let me know what you're interested in doing.
I definitely might have to take you up on that because to me, that's not work. That's something I love. I have a passion for the game of baseball. Growing up in the 70s, and I went to my first Major League Baseball game May 5th, 1978, at Exhibition Stadium. And I wish back in the 70s and 80s I had kept more things because I had a lot of cool collectibles back then from the Blue Jays and the Tigers from Tiger Stadium, and also too, I miss the old ticket stubs. I still have a lot of them, and I have Ernie Harwell sign one for me from the '85 Jays Tigers game at Tiger Stadium. But you don't see ticket stubs anymore; they're all gone. It's all digital now.
Yeah, I know the ticket thing's one thing that's gone away. We were able to get a physical ticket when Joey Votto broke Larry Walker's all-time games played record this past summer. We were down there to celebrate it and give him an award and get his jersey and whatnot. But the Reds printed off a ticket for me, an actual game ticket, and gave it to me because it's such a historical moment. 1,889 games or 1,989 games, and it's going to be a long time before that happens again. And so it's definitely rare and great to see. And yeah, I mean, if you got that 1952 Mickey Mantle card, I think that just sold for about $16 million. So check your closet and check your under your bed for that 52 Mantle. I wish a lot of people are wishing they didn't throw away their cards from the 50s. That's for sure.
My most valuable card, Steve Yzerman, obviously with Red Wings, but for baseball and the Tigers, it would be a '77 Alan Trammell, Paul Molitor rookie card in mint condition, Lou Whitaker rookie card from '77, and I have a 1973 Topps Al Kaline card too.
Wow, those are keepers. You keep them protected and keep them out of the sun and keep those things safe and flat and keep those corners square because that's what makes the value of them, and those are nice keepsakes to have.
Yeah, that was a big thing back in the 70s and 80s, collecting hockey, baseball cards, and opening up and getting that gum and seeing who you had. And it was a big deal back then. Do you guys still sell baseball cards at the Hall of Fame in St. Mary's?
The only cards we sell are for our inductees. Each year, inductee
Okay.
gets a baseball card, and we sell those. You can buy individual, or you can buy all 151 Hall of Famers. But I bought cards as a kid too. I got all kinds of cards. None of them worth too much because I was collecting in the 90s when everyone else was collecting. And cards nowadays are so different. I mean, from the autographs, one of one, to the pieces of uniform or pieces of bat or glove. Cards are very unique and very expensive and quite a hobby for some people if you really want to get into it.
Absolutely. And for me, it's always been a hobby. I just love collecting sports memorabilia and stuff like that. And I've been lucky. And like I said, I definitely in my bucket list this summer, Scott. I'm definitely going to have to come up to St. Mary's to take a tour and do maybe some interviews and be at your June 17th introduction, your intro class of 2023 as
Great.
well. And just to wrap it up, where can my audience again find you on social media and the website as well?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're really big into Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So, I mean, their Twitter feed is CDN Baseball HOF, along with our Facebook feed. And then, you know, our website, just baseballhalloffame.ca. You can check it out. All our information's on there. Our history's on there. What we're up to is on there. All our inductees, our store, you know, everything's on our website. And so please give us a follow on those 3 social medias and check out our website when you get a chance.
All right, Scott, I want to say thank you so much for coming on live with CDP Sports Talk, and definitely would like to have you back on again as a guest. And we'll definitely make sure we see you in May, and definitely come up in June for the class of 2023 as well. And I'll be glad to help out if I can.
Great, that sounds good. I'd love to talk anytime with you guys and be on, and to say talking baseball and spreading the word is what we're all about.
Definitely. So I hope you have a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and I can't believe 2023 is only a few weeks away.
I know. Before you know it, it'll be back to spring training, and we'll be watching those ball games, those guys down in Florida and Arizona in the warm weather. So we'll be watching it from our cozy couches in Ontario here, but it'll be great to see them playing ball in no time.
Definitely. If you can give me about 15 minutes, I will have our episode downloaded to my audio platforms as well.
Great. That sounds perfect.
Thank you so much again, Scott, for coming on, and we'll be checking out the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame soon.
Sounds great. Appreciate it.
You too. Have a good night.
You too.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed Season 5, Episode 5 with Scott Crawford, the Director of Operations for the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame in St. Mary's, Ontario. It's about a half an hour from London, Ontario, and about an hour and a bit from Guelph if you're interested in going there as well. Please check out their website, baseballhalloffame.ca. Before we wrap up this podcast show, guys, I'm just going to show you a little clip of the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. I think I just lost the feed, guys. Just bear with me. I apologize. Technical difficulties. So just hang on there. I just think I lost the website here. Guys, I was just going to show you a clip of the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame from St. Mary's, but unfortunately, I've lost the Wi-Fi connection. So if it comes back on, I will play it. Oh, it's back. That clip was courtesy of the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame in St. Mary's, Ontario. I want to say thank you to Scott Crawford, the Director of Operations from the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame, for coming on again today. And before we wrap this up, guys, you can follow the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame on Twitter at Canadian CDN Baseball Hall of Fame as well. And you can check out their website, baseballhalloffame.ca as well. And also, the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame Museum is on 386 Church Street South in St. Mary's, Ontario. You can call them at 519-284-1838 or email them baseball@baseballhalloffame.ca. And before we wrap this up, guys, just to let you know, the next Live with CDP Sports Talk, sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet, Wednesday, December 14th at 6 p.m. My guest will be Adam Goss, the public address announcer for the Grey Cup champion Toronto Argonauts and for the University of Guelph Griffins football team this past season at Alumni Stadium. Looking forward to speaking to Adam about the 2022 Grey Cup season for the Toronto Argonauts and the future of the franchise, and hopefully getting more fans back at BMO Field next summer. I just became a season ticket holder just a week ago, and I'm looking forward to being at a lot of games next summer at BMO Field in Toronto. So I hope you guys can tune in for season 5, episode 6 with Adam Goss, the public address announcer for the Argonauts, again this Wednesday night at 6 o'clock Eastern, live on my YouTube channel, on Facebook, Twitch. Sorry, I'll go do that again. Live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, and my LinkedIn page as well. And also, guys, Live with CDP podcast. Again, I'm going to put it right on here. Sorry, guys. I just got mixed up there. Live with CDP podcast. The audio version is downloaded to iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Anchor FM, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, Spotify, Castbox, LinkedIn, Stitcher, Tuned In, and Podbean. If you guys can give me about 10-15 minutes, I will have this downloaded to my audio platforms as well. And again, Live with CDP Sports Talk is live streamed on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn as well. And I want to say thank you to everybody for watching this live streamed and later on my audio platforms as well. StreamYard is the official live stream provider of Live with CDP Sports Talk podcast. For podcasting or for live webinars, I highly recommend StreamYard as well. You guys can also follow me on TikTok at Live with CDP. That's at Live with CDP. And I will put my website up here, guys, as well. If you want to check out my website, it's beacons.ai/Chris D. Palme. That's beacons.ai/Chris D. Palme, as all my social media sites and my YouTube channel and my previous podcasts are on that. I call that my website as well. that's about it, guys. Again, I'm looking forward to my next podcast show this Wednesday at 6 o'clock with Adam Goss, the Argonauts PA announcer. And again, I want to say thank you to Scott Crawford from the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame in St. Mary's, Ontario, for coming on today. And please consider going down there this summer and check out the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. Canada does have a long history with the game of baseball, not just in the States, but in Canada. And I'm looking forward to being a part of going down there this summer and hopefully do some interviews down there as well. And cross our fingers, Jerry Howarth, the longtime Blue Jays radio announcer for 36 years, will be introduced into the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame this year, hopefully as well. And before we wrap this up again, Live with CDP Sports Talk is sponsored by Barry Collins Chevrolet, 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycollin.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, or give them a call at 519-824-0210 as well. And also, guys, you can order the all electric, you can pre-order all the all electric vehicles such as the Cadillac Silverado or the Cadillac Lyriq through Barry Collin through their website, or just go down there and make a pre-order. And I'm waiting for my 2023 Chevy Trailblazer to arrive. Hopefully it'll be here in January or February as well. But again, I want to say thank you again to Mark Cullen from Barry Collin Dealership for sponsoring my podcast show. Again, I want to say thank you to everybody watching this live and later on my audio platforms. And just give me about 10, 15 minutes. I'll have this downloaded to all my audio platforms. I hope everybody has a great night. And we'll see you Wednesday night, 6 o'clock with Adam Goss from the Toronto Argonauts, talking some CFL and the Grey Cup season for the Toronto Argonauts down at BMO Field as well. Have a great night, everybody. And we'll see you Wednesday night at 6 o'clock with Adam Goss from the Toronto Argonauts. Good night.